welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 69 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 68 of A Game of Thrones. That's Daenerys 9.
As always, we're going to chat about the chapter, and we're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll do the usual. We'll summarise what's happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show. If we can think of anything, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some reader mail. Be sure to check out the show notes. They give you a bit of extra information, which will be useful if you're not reading along. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good. Not too bad.
All right. That's good.
Oh, Carson was not COVID positive.
Good.
I just happened to listen to last week's, and so I knew I had to sort of respond to that because people might be worried about her.
Right.
And so I have now got to sleep in the new bed. It's very nice.
Very nice. All right. Comfy, cozy.
Mm-hmm.
Does the dog take up the prime real estate?
Oh, yeah. The dogs like the bed. It's not good.
Yeah, I can imagine. So
what have you got for me? There's words here that have got me all excited. I don't know what to think.
No, we got a lot. This chapter's got a lot, so don't have a whole lot of time to chat. But there was one funny story I wanted to relay to you. So we got an email from a friend of the pod, Steve in New Jersey. We communicate with him from time to time, and he sent us an email earlier this week that said. We made his day when I matter-of-factly referred to Ned Stark as
Sean Bean?
A heads-up guy.
Oh, a heads-up guy.
And so I was sitting in Molly's bedroom when I was reading this because she was trying to show me some stuff on Amazon. She wanted to get a friend for a Secret Santa exchange that they're doing, and so I was laughing to myself, and she's like, "What are you laughing at?" And I told her, I was like, we just got this email from a listener of ours, and I told her what it said, and she goes, "It still surprises me that people want to listen to you." I was like, "Oh man." She didn't even turn around. Didn't break stride at all.
Steve has gone up in my estimation, and Molly's gone down.
That's right. You recall during that 50th episode special, she said she was our number one fan. I have a hunch she might have been lying.
Yeah. All right, you're right. We have a long one today, so let's get down to business. Quick recap of what Dany was up to last time we saw her. Last time we saw Dany, she was worrying over Khal Drogo's declining health after he removed the newly enslaved Mirri Maz Duur's poultice a little bit early, to be fair.
A little bit, yep.
He eventually was unable to ride and fell off his horse, so Jorah suggested that they flee before the Khal died and the Khalasar tore itself apart in the power vacuum. Instead, Dany called upon Mirri Maz Duur once again. This time she used blood magic to keep the Khal from dying, but at the cost of a life for a life. When the Khal's blood riders discovered what was up, a fight broke out, leaving the blood riders dead, Jorah wounded. Afterward, Dany appeared to have gone into labour, and Jorah carried her into the tent, where Mirri specifically told Dany no living creature should go. McKelly, why don't we give him the summary?
Okay. So Dany's dreaming, and in her dream, it consists of a bunch of small vignettes. The first one is her with Drogo in a Dothraki sea, then her with Viserys shouting at her, then she sees her son Rhaego as an adult, but he bursts into flames as he reaches out for her. The whole time she's walking down a stone corridor trying to reach a red door at the end. Spectral kings urge her to go faster. She sprouts wings and flies, terrorizing everything in her path. She goes through the red door and finds her brother Rhaegar in his armor. Only, when she lifts his visor, it's her own face looking back at her.
Dany wakes, but soon loses consciousness again. The next time she wakes, she asks to hold a dragon egg, before Mirri Maz Duur gives her a sleeping potion. The third time she wakes, she feels sore but strong. The dragon egg she's holding is oddly hot to the touch, and she feels something stretch and twist inside it. She asks her handmaids to bring Ser Jorah and Mirri Maz Duur, Khal Drogo, and her son Rhaego. Two of the maids find excuses to leave in a hurry, but Jiqui isn't so lucky. Dany grabs her and wants to know what's up. She says the Khal lives, but her son didn't.
While Dany feels the other eggs, and feels the same heat as the one she's been sleeping with, Ser Jorah and Mirri Maz Duur enter. Jorah feels nothing but cold stone when he touches the egg. And Mirri explains that Rhaego was twisted, scaled, monstrous, and stillborn. Dany thinks Jorah killed her baby out of love and loyalty when he carried her into the tent. But when she tells Mirri that she thought the death that paid for Drogo's life was the horse, Mirri says that that's a lie she told herself, that Dany always knew what the price was. Dany wants to see the cow, whose life she paid for with her sons.
They exit the tent and Dany sees that the place is empty. Where 40,000 once were is now about 100. Jorah explains that Drogo's coasts proclaimed themselves Khals and left, the Khalasar splitting into a dozen new ones. Dany learns that her newest maid, Aurora, was raped and killed. After vowing vengeance on the men responsible, she finds Drogo laying in the dirt, covered in flies and blind. Jorah explains that Drogo can walk if led and will eat and drink if you put food and water to his lips.
Mirri says that Dany asked for the cow to live, and that's what she got. When she asked when he will be as he was, Mirri says that when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, when the seas go dry, when the mountains blow in the wind like leaves, and Dany bears a living child. Dany's less than pleased, and sends all but Mirri away. When alone, Dany says Mirri knew what she was buying, and at what cost, and still let her do it. Mirri says her prophesied son won't trample any villages now. She also cites all the atrocities committed by the Dothraki on her Lazarene village as reasons for the betrayal.
Dany says she saved Mirri's life, and Mirri retorts, "Look at your call to see what life is with nothing." After Dany has Mirri taken away to be bound, she bathes Drogo and spends the night trying everything in her power to spark some life in him. Nothing works. As the sun rises, she takes a pillow and puts it over Drogo's face.
We've lost another.
I know!
So ends the life of Khal Drogo.
Yeah, and Rhaego. I mean, think about it.
Right? Oh, yeah.
We were going to have a stallion that mounted the world. Instead, we've got stillborn.
Yeah.
Never know him.
100 folks left in the Khalasar. Man.
Yeah, the Khalasar's gone.
Right. They left the old and the sick and the young, basically. Too young to be much use.
You gotta think the parents of the too young to be much use would be like, hang on.
That's a good point.
Just...
Well, do we have to race off so quickly? I was just telling Simon before we started recording, I've read through this chapter probably 3 times, and I bet I've audiobooked this chapter 6 times, and I'm still have trouble keeping all the details straight because there's just so many little scenes and so many details in those little scenes. I'm having trouble keeping them all organized. So,
oh yeah, imagine how it is for me.
Well, I guess we should start by stepping
We've got
through
notes.
the dream. Yes, we do.
Yeah, we've got notes. Hopefully they won't lead us astray.
Yeah.
So the sort of like the recurring theme in the dream, well, one of the recurring themes is you don't want to wake the dragon. She keeps hearing a voice saying, "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?"
Yeah.
Which, of course, is words that we heard from Viserys several times.
Right.
But
yes, right.
She doesn't actually attribute them to Viserys here.
But yeah, she hears this disembodied voice with every new scene of the dream. But the first one starts out with her walking down a stone corridor, and there's a red door far ahead. She's leaving bloody footprints on the stone of the corridor while she's walking, and she knows she can't look behind her.
Yeah, so just sort of interjecting here. Can we... Is it spoiler to say... Well, I mean, obviously Khal Drogo's gone, and Rhaego's gone. So, and Viserys is gone.
Yep.
So, Dany is now the Targaryen line. If
right.
the Targaryens plan to get back on the throne, it's Daenerys Targaryen.
Yep, I think that's where this dream is going. Yes.
So, the Red Door obviously is an allusion back to her favourite place that she lived growing up, in Pentos?
Bravos.
No, not Pentos.
The
Bravos,
big house
right.
with the lemon tree and the red door in Bravos,
right.
where Sir Willem Darry took her and Viserys after they fled Dragonstone.
That's right. And so, for her, the Red Door represents sort of like an ultimate goal, thing she's trying to get to.
Right.
And her bloody footsteps presumably represent to get to that goal is going to take some bloodshed.
Yeah. That I had not thought about it like that. I was thinking because the footprints change from the beginning of the dream to the end of the dream. I was thinking of it as her leaving the blood on the footprints, or her leaving bloody footprints on the stone was kind of like her acquiescing to the world. Like the world was taking its toll on her and leaving her bloody and battered. Because, things change as this dream goes along, and we get closer to her becoming the dragon.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, the other part of that is that she felt she couldn't look behind her.
Yeah.
And again, that for me goes to the whole idea of this dream being like, this corridor is her life's path. Right. And obviously she has good reasons not to look behind her now, because there's a lot of misery now in her life.
Absolutely.
And the red door is what she's hoping for. The sense of home that gives her.
Exactly. And, yes.
But what is that? Is that now the Iron Throne for herself?
Right. Yeah, because Viserys used to talk about home when he would refer to Westeros, and she would think to her home is the big house and Bravos with the lemon tree and the red door. So yeah, I think that red door represents getting back to something comfortable, something she can relate to and understand. But then the scene switches, and again the disembodied voice says, "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" And she and Drogo are in the Dothraki Sea, making out, I guess you'd say. And she whispers to Drogo, "Home," but then huge wings sweep across the sky and burn everything in sight.
So go on then. You help me with what you think about this one then.
So to me, this one felt like her life in the Khalasar and her life with Drogo was becoming her home. She was starting to feel at home in this life. But now with Drogo gone, so is the feeling of home. And last chapter, when Drogo was dying, she thought about how she was getting everything. She had a place where she belonged. She had a man who loved her. She was having, his baby. They were going to go to Westeros, and she was losing everything. So, with Drogo dying, she's losing her sense of home in the Dothraki Sea, with the Dothraki. And now only her Targaryenness remains, which was represented by the dragon burning everything in sight.
Yeah, I see that, and I think it's a very good interpretation. The one thing is, though, there's a sense here in the dream that the Targaryenness is destroying the Dothrakiness.
Yes, right, yeah.
Which is not really what's happened, I don't think. I mean, she might now become, true Targaryen because of what's befallen her. But I don't really feel like it was her being a Targaryen that led to the downfall of Khal Drogo.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't think it is. I think it's just symbolizing the only thing she has left is her Targaryenness.
Right. So Mirri Maz Duur said you always knew what deal you were making. You knew you were going to lose your son to keep the Khal. Right. But you chose it anyway. And so that does perhaps hint at Dany's Targaryenness came through. Well, obviously some of that is just love for Khal Drogo. But maybe she was willing to sacrifice the future for herself. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, she was willing to give up Rhaego for the benefit of having the cow still with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the fact that we still have the full sentence, "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" to me felt like at this point in her life, she still just wanted to be Drogo's wife and the mother of the stallion who mounts the world. Let them seek the glory. She still doesn't want to wake the dragon. She doesn't want to be the dragon.
Right. Because as this gets repeated, it gets shortened.
Exactly.
And more words are dropped from it.
Yes.
Right. I see what you're saying, yeah.
Because the next thing we get is the next scene, which is the disembodied voice now shortens it to "Don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" which is only shortening by the word "you." But it is getting shorter. And we see Jorah sitting around a fire saying Rhaegar was the last dragon. And there are stone eggs smoldering in the coals of that fire. And now she earlier she was saying she knew she couldn't look behind her. Now she knows that there's a darkness behind her, and that the red door, is so far away. And he says Rhaegar was the last dragon, and he begins, Jorah himself begins to fade away into nothingness. To me, it felt like her turning to her oldest brother, Rhaegar, as the dragon, but
who she never knew,
right? Yeah. Because she was told he was the last dragon, but he's gone, so he can't be the last dragon now. He can't be the dragon anymore. And remember, she tried putting the eggs in the fire in the chapter with the wine assassin, and when that didn't work, nothing happened. She remembered Jorah's words. Rhaegar was the last dragon, and I kind of felt like him fading away was symbolism of the truth of his statement that Rhaegar was the last dragon, fading away as she emerges as candidate to be the last dragon.
Interesting. Yeah.
But so it mentions the darkness behind her, and later Mirri says that the grave casts long shadows, and I thought maybe that was the darkness of whatever was in the tent, the shadows of whatever was in the tent that Mirri was interacting with when Jorah carried Dany in there.
Yeah, because obviously this dream sequence comes at a moment in the book where you're going to combine both the immediate things that are happening, Khal Drogo potentially dying, losing the baby,
right,
with the sort of like symbolism of future portents and past.
Yeah. It's kind of like
lives
all coming together right here in this fever dream.
Yeah. So the next time we hear the same words, it is the same words again. Don't want to wake the dragon, do you? And obviously this time it's Viserys, and he's clearly not the answer to the dragon, although he is the author of the words.
He wasn't the dragon when he was alive. Well, now that he's dead.
Yeah. He screams things we heard him scream before. The dragon does not beg. You do not command the dragon. The kind of very self-centered things that he would shout about himself.
Yeah.
I am the dragon and I will be crowned. Just before Drogo did crown him.
Yeah, so, not how he had planned, though, I guess.
Right. And so in the dream, she sees him with the molten gold burning channels in his face, which is not very nice.
Right.
And his fingers snapped like snakes.
Yeah, and he did that. That actually happened when they got into that fight in the Dothraki Sea, when she saw it for the first time and told Jorah, "Keep everybody back. I want to go in by myself." And he came riding down in and said, "You do not command the dragon." And then he started like grabbing her and pinching her and stuff. And so I guess she's seeing that in her dream as well.
Yeah.
And remember, right as he was dying, actually, I guess it was right after he died, during the feast, she thought at the time, he's no dragon, fire can't kill a dragon.
Yeah. So the next time we hear the words, they're shortened again to just don't want to wake the dragon. So no question this time, just a statement.
Yep.
And now she sees the red door very far away and icy breath behind her. If it catches her, she'll die a death which is far more than death. She'll be howling forever in the darkness. So naturally enough, she starts to run from that.
Good idea.
As you would yourself. She's still resisting the idea of her as the dragon, still trying to get to the red door of her childhood, clinging to the comfort and familiarity. But it also feels like this is a nod to what's going on in Westeros.
A little bit, yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, it's possibly a nod to the others. Becoming a white seems like a death far more than death. You might be howling forever alone in the darkness.
Yeah.
It also...
And that's definitely something that I mean, again, trying to bring all the strands of the book together in this dream. They definitely seem to be doing that here. Yeah.
And also I thought, she feels like fire can't kill a dragon, but maybe ice can kill a dragon. Right. So, this iciness coming up behind her might be a real danger for her.
She doesn't run from fire in her dreams. She runs from ice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it repeats, the disembodied voice repeats itself again. Don't want to wake the dragon. And now we get to see Rhaego, and he's tall and proud, and he's basically a great mix of Dany and Khal Drogo. He's got Drogo's copper skin and Dany's silver gold hair and violet eyes, and he smiles and reaches out for Dany, but right then he is consumed by fire from within. And she cries, but her tears turn to steam on her skin. And to me, this just felt like possibly he too was not the dragon, because he was consumed from fire from within, and she feels like the fire can't kill the dragon. So,
yeah.
And now this is the end of the procession of male heirs falling. There's none left but her. And, Rhaego was the last male heir. So maybe he could have been the dragon and carried on the Targaryen effort, but he's gone. So if she wants to return the Targaryens to their former glory, it's going to be up to her.
Yeah. And of course, at this point, she's still having the dream, so she doesn't know that Rhaego's gone. She may intuit it, but she doesn't know that. She's not been confirmed.
Right.
So this time the words get shortened again to just want to wake the dragon. So no longer a question, and also perhaps inverted.
Yes.
Perhaps someone saying, we do want to wake the dragon.
Exactly. Very opposite from how we started with, you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? Even different from the previous scene with, don't want to wake the dragon.
Right.
Now we want to wake the dragon.
Yeah. So now ghosts line the hallway, and they're dressed like kings. They hold swords of pale fire. They have hair of silver and gold, like Targaryen ancestors.
Right.
They have eyes of opal, amethyst, tourmaline, and jade. They're urging her faster, and her footsteps are melting the stone. She feels a searing pain down her back. She smells burning blood. She feels the shadow of wings upon her. And she flies. She
flies. Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And, it definitely feels like the ancestors, ancient kings of Targaryens, urging her to believe in herself. And, but what took me off guard was the eye color, because I don't think of those colors, opal, amethyst, tourmaline, and jade, as being purple or violet. But I did a little Google research, and all those stones they come in purple. So, jade is associated with green mostly, but you can get purple jade stone. So,
have they all had the sort of violet eyes, or have there been exceptions? I think there've been exceptions, haven't there?
Probably some that aren't, inbred.
Targaryen both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a general Valyrian trait, is the purple eyes.
Purple eyes, okay. And to contrast with what you were talking about before, I was talking before about her footsteps bleeding because she was, a cost was being paid in other people's blood, but you were suggesting it was her own pain and anguish. And now her feet are melting the stones. She's not leaving bloody footprints. She's melting stones as she goes.
Now she is enforcing her will and her intimidation on the world. She is the dragon.
Yeah. Hear
me roar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, it felt to me in this particular instance, she mentions she could smell her burning blood, and unlike the others, the men we've seen in this dream so far, she is channeling the fire rather than being consumed by the fire.
Right. Good, yeah.
So I think that feels like the difference at this point. But then we get even more direct with the disembodied voice. Instead of saying, want to wake the dragon, now it just says, wake the dragon. So it's a command, wake the dragon.
Right.
And she's flying, and, she's very close to the door now, the red door that used to be so far away. But she leaves the stone corridor, and she flies over the Dothraki Sea, and all flee in terror from her. And she sees she could see home beyond the red door. She sees green fields and great stone houses, and then she throws open the door at this point.
Yep. So clearly she's beginning to realize in the dream that she herself can be the dragon. She doesn't need to rely on those others. She's not going to be consumed by the fire. She can channel it. Yeah. Yep. And also that the red door isn't necessarily just a door into a safe home, but it could be the door to something beyond that.
Yeah. Bigger sights than just the house in Bravos. Her ancestral home where her Iron Throne sits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, the last time the disembodied voice speaks, it simply says, the dragon. And
Uh-huh.
now she sees Rhaegar again in his famous black
Yes.
armor, and she hears Jorah reminding, saying the words "last dragon" again. So again, we're reminded that's who everyone thinks was the last dragon. Jorah insists he was the last dragon. He's
Right.
saying it here in the dream. But when she opens Rhaegar's visor, it's her own face looking out.
Yep. And this one feels, I don't know. To me, it felt pretty obvious.
Yes, it's getting more and more heavy-handed, this dream.
Yes. That she is the last dragon. That's what we get here.
Yeah, and actually, I wonder, just thinking about Rhaegar a little bit. I mean, obviously, that is what this dream is trying to tell her. Clearly, it's telling her that. And the contrast with Rhaegar is quite interesting, because he threw away the throne because of his love of Lyanna Stark.
Right. Yeah.
Daenerys has just lost everyone she loves. And that's opened the door to her taking the throne back. So it's kind of like a...
Yeah.
sort of coming full circle.
Right. Yeah. I like that. I think that, the dream is showing her that she will rise wherever Viserys fell. She has much better leadership abilities than Viserys did, and maybe she can do this thing. Maybe she can lead an army to Westeros and take back the Iron Throne.
Well, we've flown high with this new dragon, but then she wakes up in a tent.
Yeah. All that power she had as a dragon, it's all gone.
She sees the embers and remembers her dream. It snaps her back to reality. If she wants to reclaim her throne, it's going to be a process. But the dream has shown her it's possible.
Yeah. And, she says her body feels like it's been torn to pieces and remade from scraps. And to me, that felt like possibly a nod to a new beginning for Dany. She's starting from scratch on her own. Nobody to constrain her, but also nobody to follow. So if she's gonna do this, she's now the front runner here. Yeah.
So Mirri Maz Duur is still around, not necessarily because she chooses to be. If I were Mirri Maz Duur, I'd be taking strides to get away from this place. But she comes and goes, and she's obviously tending to Dany.
Yeah, she has to strongly suspect that Dany is not going to be pleased when she wakes up. So I was thinking, in this scene, because Dany kind of comes and goes from consciousness. There's a few little scenes of Dany coming and going, and it feels like Mirri Maz Duur is tending to her. She's like, "What do you need, Khaleesi? What do you want?" And like giving her potions and stuff to help her sleep. And I thought, why not just poison her and finish her off? I mean, no one's going to be able to tell if she died due to poison. Why is she nursing her back to health?
The only thing I would say to that is that Mirri Maz Duur has only one fan in the entire Khalasar, and that is Daenerys Targaryen. Now,
at the point where
likely she's lost that fan, but she certainly hasn't gained any new ones. So you might as well try and nurse the fan back to health.
I guess, but man, when she finds out what she's given up and what she's gotten in return, she's gonna be mad. So I was thinking, maybe it was to finish what she started and see the Khaleesi who so foolishly trusted her witness how badly things ended up for her and her people.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think there's a bit of that. It's kind of like, I got my revenge, and I just want you to know that I know. Right. And then I stuck around to see the look on your face when I got my revenge.
Exactly. That's kind of like, I was thinking, what else could it be but that? I mean, yeah, I'm sure if she could have gotten away, she would probably leave, and I doubt she's got that ability.
Yeah.
But she could, just finish Dany off here.
Yeah. And then serve up a big feast to everyone with a bit more of the same.
Right.
Why don't you all have some of this?
Yeah.
So Dany again feels the eggs as hot, twisting, stretching. Jorah touches them; they're cold and scaly. So again, Dany's connected to the eggs in some way, and they to her. But are they actually alive, or is it just all part of her dream?
Yeah, she did just wake from a fever dream where she dreamt about fire and dragons and stuff. So could just be some leftover effect from that. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Dany wants to know about Rhaego. Jorah is hesitant to tell her. Mirri Maz Duur, in for a penny, in for a pound.
I guess
tells
so.
her that Rhaego was scaly with a stubbed tail, leathery bat-like wings, and full of grave worms and the stink of corruption. He'd been dead for years.
Yeah, it was that part that Jorah says the women said that he was, and couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't say what the women said that Rhaego was. So it sounds like more than just Mirri Maz Duur saw what Rhaego was.
Right,
but the dead for years thing made me feel like maybe it was not, this whole thing wasn't literal, that he just was born dead.
But I think that the blood magic caused something more than just the baby to die.
Yeah,
that's what I think has happened here. That sort of like all the death that was being channeled out of Khal Drogo went into him, and so he didn't just die. It was. Oh, by the way, my cousin had a baby.
Oh well, congratulations!
Congratulations, Louise. Welcome, baby Lily. No leathery bat wings.
Oh, good. That's great.
I've seen pictures. Looks great.
Yeah. So Dany says back to Mirri Maz Duur, that he was alive and strong in her womb moments before when Jorah carried her into the tent, and Mirri Maz Duur doubles down and says that may be what it may be, but I'm telling you, he looked like I just described when I birthed him myself. So it seems pretty literal.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. It's the dead for years thing that I don't quite get what she meant by that. I guess it like the baby looked like it was decomposed already.
Right. Yeah. So what did Mirri Maz Duur intend? Dany has thought more than once that Jorah killed Rhaego by taking her into the tent, and I think that's true.
Yes, it definitely did. I agree. Yeah. So what boils down to me then is like, what did Mirri Maz Duur intend? In what was happy accident for her.
Right, yeah.
You know? Like, Mirri Maz Duur said death was in the tent, and Jorah says it was only shadows. And this is where Mirri Maz Duur says the grave casts long shadows. And, it definitely feels like when Jorah carried Dany in there, it led to Rhaego dying. I mean, that seems pretty legit.
Yeah, no, I know where you're going with this. But this could almost be pedantry, because absolutely, Mirri Maz Duur told her to stay out of the tent. Jorah brought her into the tent. Mirri Maz Duur says, you knew which life was paying for which life. You always knew. Right. It was a lie you were telling yourself. So then, what was Mirri Maz Duur's plan? What's just random?
Right.
Yeah, I mean...
Exactly. Like, so she knew that the life paying for the life was Rhaego's life for Khal Drogo's life. So
but
was
maybe,
it just like...
maybe as a sorceress, she knew Dany was headed back into the tent no matter what. That was an inevitability of it.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like a street magic trick where the magician guesses the card before the person even picks it, like writes it down, and then the person pulls that card and they're like, see, like this magic was inevitably going to get Rhaego into that tent or something like that. Because later, after seeing Drogo and Dany and Mirri Maz Duur are having it out, Dany says, you knew what I was paying for and you let me do it. You murdered my child. And Mirri Maz Duur, she doesn't deny it. She says, the stallion amounts of world will burn no cities now, will trample no nations now. So, it certainly feels like she fully expected that this was the trade-off.
It feels like Ser Jorah was a hapless patsy in this whole thing. He was just fulfilling exactly what was already preordained.
And Dany multiple times says that the darkness in the tent had affected Jorah as well. And she also says that Jorah knows that it was him that killed her baby, that fed her baby to the darkness. And she says she could tell by his gray face, his hollow eyes, and his limp. And I was like, the limp might be attributed to Kaholo's arak that dug into his hip bone. I'm pretty sure that might have something to do with the limp.
So multiple times Dany thinks, if I look back, I am lost. And, this is one of those things where you could lose yourself in thinking about the decisions you've made and what they've led to. And you do the very British thing and just package that away and ignore it and move on with your life.
Right. Yeah, she has to stay strong if she thinks about what she's lost and, her role in all this.
Right.
She will crumble into a ball of just tears and emotion.
And I think it's the role that's the hardest part. You can think about what you've lost and be sad and move on, but your role in it is the bit that's going to always tear you apart.
Yeah. And she mentions that when Jiqui tells her that Rhaego didn't survive, she thinks to herself, I knew this. I always knew this. I knew this since the dream. And she remembers having in the dream. And she thinks, I should weep for him, but I can't. I did all my weeping in my dream. And, it all turned to steam. I've had it all burnt out of me. So all her emotions have been burnt out of her at this point,
in the
I guess.
Dream. Interesting. Yeah. So she discovers that Khalasar's gone. Only 100 remain: the sick, the old, the children of parents who didn't really care about them.
Apparently.
Jorah explains that the Khalasar split into a dozen new Khalasars. Exactly what he said was going to happen. The only difference is that they're still alive. He didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
Dany got lucky here that Rhaego died, perhaps, because that was kind of the one thing that was her death sentence.
Right, we had talked about that last Dany chapter, that Rhaego's prophecy is very likely be their death sentence.
Yeah. So Eroe, who was her new handmaiden, who was brought in just to get slapped, if you remember,
right,
was raped by Maego and Khal Joko and the Jacko and the Blood Riders, and then killed. So a short, unhappy life for Eroe in the book.
Yes, unfortunately. Gosh, very tragic. But Maego was the one that was actively raping her when Dany stopped it in the Lazarine village. And he's the one that came to Khal Drogo and complained that Dany...
Oh, Maego was raping Eroe. Oh, yeah. So in actual fact, he finishes off the job now.
Yes.
Charming.
I think that's exactly
but,
what...
But Maego wasn't the one that got into the fight with Khal Drogo.
No. That was in the TV show. Remember, in the
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking of the TV show. That's right. Yeah, that's right, because he totally did. I was like, that guy wasn't alive to rape her. What are you talking about?
Because in the TV show, he was the one that slashed Khal Drogo, right?
Yes,
that caused the wound in the first place.
Exactly. But in the book, he'd already received the wounds in the battle.
Yes, Maego basically in the book just came up, kind of complained to Koholo that I was doing something here and she messed it up.
Yeah.
So
don't know where to go now with this. Sorry, I've messed this up terribly.
Because of Aroa's fate, Dany threatens a worse fate to now Khal Joko and Maego and the other members, the other Dothraki members that are here with her are like, well, you see, Khaleesi, he is now a cow with a 20,000 strong Khalasar, so
we have a 100 not strong Khalasar.
Right, yeah. And she's like, well, I'm the blood of the dragon. You should have been in my dream. I was scaring everybody.
In my dream? I'm surprised they didn't stick around for your dream. But,
if this is true and that 20,000 members of the Khalasar went with Khal Joko now, then that's half the Khalasar went with him. The other 11, because Jorah says there are a dozen now where there once was just one, the other 11 must be significantly smaller. They must, the real strength must have followed Khal Joko.
Yeah. So Khal Drogo is still alive, but he is in a catatonic state. Mirri Maz Duur said, you got what you asked for, he's alive.
Yeah.
Mirri Maz Duur seems to tell Dany that she won't be able to have any more children.
It sure seems like that, because she says, like we said in the summary, when will he be revived? When will he be back to the way that he was? And one of the things she says is, when you birth a live child. And the other things that she includes in that list are pretty low odds, like the sun rising on the wrong side of the planet and the mountains blowing in the wind. And so if she's equating those things to Dany having a live birth, it certainly seems like
I would agree.
Not going to happen. But is it because she's cursed? Because like of what happened in that tent, or was it the birthing, the birthing process that went bad? It could be a lie. Maybe she's just trying, trying more misery.
Throw shade, exactly.
Right, yeah. So, anyway.
So Jorah will be listening intently and will be saying, well, we could try. So Dany's, obviously this is the bit where Dany says, you knew what I was buying and what the cost was, and you didn't stop me. You should have stopped me,
And Mirri Maz Duur's response, she doesn't try and defend herself in any way. She says her immediate response back to that was, it was wrong of them to burn my temple. Not like, I tried all that I could, but the cow wouldn't listen. He was a bad guy anyway and destroyed the village, so I took advantage of his mistake and brought the Khalasar down. No explanation, just it was wrong of them to burn my village.
Yeah. I think at this point she knows her goose is cooked, so she's like, well, you shouldn't have done it. If you didn't want me to treat you badly. It is kind of rough on Dany, though. She was she reminds us she was the one who saved her. But Mirri Maz Duur says, but you saved me from my 4th rape. 3 had already been in there before you arrived, so...
Yep. And they burned my temple. They burned my house. I saw the head of a baker who baked my bread. I saw the head of a child that I'd recently healed. And, the thing about burning the temple is they must have done that after she patched up Khal Drogo, because they went into her temple to patch up Khal Drogo.
That's right, it's true.
So, it's possible that at that point maybe she was still trying to be helpful, but the fact that she saw the head of the baker and the head of the child and heard the children crying as they were driven off, it seems unlikely that she was legitimately trying to help him.
This feels like a revelation of a plan that's been going ever since, rather than a week or so after the events that I'm about to describe. I got very angry about them and changed my behavior.
Yes, definitely feels premeditated.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, if we weren't seeing all this through Dany's POV, then we might see Mirri as the hero here, because she's getting revenge on a brutal, ruthless regime that chopped off heads of children and bakers and, drove children into slavery. So, Mirri looks like the bad guy here, but that's because we're getting this from Dany's perspective.
Yeah, I will say, though, that Dany was the one person trying to help. And she does seem the target of most of Mirri's revenge.
You're right.
And for that reason, it just feels a little harsh. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. So the chapter ends with Dany trying everything she can think of to revive Khal Drogo. She talks to him. She tries her feminine wiles. She gives him a bath, But nothing happens. Eventually she just gives up and sticks the pillow over his face, and he is no more.
Yeah. She started out with some hope. She thought, maybe there's spells stronger and better than whatever Mirri Maz Duur did to him, but eventually I guess she realizes none of it's going to work. So that's the end of Khal Drogo.
Yes, Khal Drogo joins Ned Stark in the
Nightlands.
The Nightlands. I was going to say Darklands, but I was like, that's not right. It's something else.
Who would have ever thought, not that long ago, that Khal Drogo's death would be by pillow?
That's Mirri Maz Duur's ultimate revenge right there.
Right. He gets to the Nightlands and they're all, talking about how they died, an arak to the neck. And, I was burned by a flaming arrow. How about you, Drogo? There's a pillow involved.
I got a nasty nick, and then I had some dodgy poultices, and then my wife smothered me with a pillow. Die with your boots on. After a bath.
Right, yes. He did have a nice bath and his hair brushed out first. So,
So to background, you have something.
yeah, sure. So it does seem like Mirri Maz Duur was being pretty literal about her description of Rhaego. I think we decided that it does seem pretty legit. But, would not be without precedent in Targaryen history. If you remember Alice Haraway, Maegor's second wife that had a child described as monstrous, eyeless, and twisted. Of course, Tyanna later admitted to poisoning the child in utero, so don't know how that poison may have affected the child. That was I believe, a background in the last Arya chapter. And then we get to Rhaenyra Targaryen. She was the only child and heir to King Viserys I Targaryen, and she featured heavily in the Dance of the Dragons, which is the bloody Targaryen civil war that pitted her against her younger half-brother Aegon II for the Iron Throne. Now, she married her uncle, Prince Daemon Targaryen. It was her second marriage. And her sixth child, named Visenya, her third with her uncle Daemon, and whose labor was set off by anger over the news of her brother Aegon II usurping her throne, that child was stillborn and premature. And it's said that Visenya had a dragon-like birth defects, that she was described as having been twisted and malformed, with a hole in her chest where her heart should have been, and a stubby scaled tail. It's also said that Princess Rhaenyra had cursed Visenya while giving birth by calling her a monster. The actual quote is, "Monster, monster, get out, get out, get out!" Rhaenyra was also the mother of two kings, Aegon III, who we did a previous background section on him, and his younger brother, Viserys II. So, dragon-like birth defects are somewhat... They happen sometimes.
Yeah, they do happen with the Targaryens.
Family history, I guess.
That's a good collection. I mean, if there was just one, you might not think, but that's two fairly decent examples. So. And now we have a third.
A third, right.
Yeah. So in comparison with the television show, I mean, basically the whole dream is skipped. I mean, there's just no dream. We see Dany get up. Ser Jorah's there. He feels bad. He takes her to Khal Drogo. She hears about Rhaego. She confronts Mirri Maz Duur. Mirri Maz Duur admits to her crimes, basically. And then Daenerys tries and fails to raise Khal Drogo and smothers him. So all pretty much captured apart from the dream. Of course, the dream, because we're near the end of the book now, the dream is kind of like a recapitulation and a sort of like a forward projection of where the story might go. And so
true. Yeah.
Would have been nice to have in the TV show, but probably a little bit, I don't know. I don't know if it would be too spoilery in the TV show or...
Yeah, there's less storylines and stuff in the TV show, so maybe it would...
Yeah. They had to keep it under control, the number of things they're trying to juggle.
Right. Yeah, for folks who haven't read the book, the TV show can be complicated enough, just figuring out what's going on with what they did include.
Yeah. So pedantry, there isn't much. I mean, you raised the point that we know that the temple wasn't burned because that's where Khal Drogo was healed, but I guess they could have burned it afterwards. Seems slightly gratuitous.
Right. When I read it, I thought, why would they then, after she went and healed him, and then they're like, okay, now burn the temple.
Yeah.
Last man out, throw the flames. That seemed a bit much, but
Yeah, and then almost everything involving Mirri Maz Duur is borderline pedantry because she is doing things which are clearly self-sabotage.
Yes, right.
And some of it we don't know whether or not it's legit or not, or some of it we don't know if she's just falling sort of happily into accidents that work in her favor, or if she's been plotting this all along. This is her perfect endgame for her.
I don't know that she would have ever gotten back into Dany's good graces, but if maybe some of these things were happy accidents, if she was pointing that out, like, I didn't plan that. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. that might help a little bit,
It's like a sort of terrorist group that claims everything. Oh, that was us.
Right. Right.
They never do anything. They just claim everything that happens.
Yeah.
News and notes.
So news and notes, we got an email from a listener named Tammy, and she teaches a class on a Game of Thrones. How cool is that?
I'm worried now. We're going to get schooled.
Oh, and she just suggested, back in the Arya chapter, you might remember some of our pedantry discussion was how Arya, if the city is surrounded by walls, how she was coming and going from the river so freely. And Tammy suggested that we look at Dubrovnik, Croatia, to get an idea of how King's Landing's walls, because that's where King's Landing was filmed in the TV show, how King's Landing's walls could keep Arya in and still allow access to the Blackwater Rush. And I hadn't heard back from her on this, but what I got from looking at the pictures and maps like she suggested is it seems like there are cutouts in the walls down near the water that allow coming and going from the water's edge, but you would still need a boat to get across the river.
Right, yeah.
That would also explain how Arya came out at the river from the dungeons and how she got back to the Red Keep so easily. With that, there'd be no need to go back through the mud gate. Of course, back then the mud gate wasn't blocked to her, but anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great to hear from you, Tammy, and we'd definitely like to hear more from you.
Yeah, we're kind of a little bit kind of trying to put something together with Tammy that might be pretty cool. I don't want to go too much into detail in case it doesn't work out. But,
you can tell me.
I think you read that email, didn't you?
I did.
I told you, yeah. I don't think you read the Facebook message we got from Dammy, though, did you?
No, I don't think so.
I think I told you, I sent you an instant message at work about it. But...
Yeah, me and Facebook. Whenever I try to go to Facebook on my phone, it just doesn't work for some reason. And then I take my phone to Carson like I'm 80, and she sort of like enters a few things, and then Facebook works for like the next 2 days, and then it stops working again. I have to go back to it. And I feel so old and pathetic.
Well, I think the point of that story is if you want to reach Simon, send us an email.
Yes.
That he knows how to work email.
I do.
Well, Dammy sent us a Facebook message, and he enjoyed our 50th anniversary episode. He said he really liked our questions, and he said that he listens while he's doing chores, and it really
sorry,
makes
McKelly,
chores
sorry
fly
to
by.
interrupt. Just sorry to interrupt. What was our 50th episode?
It was a question and answer one.
Oh, with Molly. The one with Molly.
Yes.
Yeah. That was good. That was good.
He listens.
We've done so many specials now. I get confused between them all.
That's true. And he said congratulations on your U.S. citizenship.
Well, thank you.
So
thank you.
Yes.
So yeah, I because of Carson self-isolating, I had to do all the Thanksgiving cooking on my own.
Oh wow! Your first Thanksgiving as a citizen, and you got stuck doing all the work.
Oh no! But it went
like, can I give this citizenship back? This is what I signed up for.
As I told her, I said I like to have the Thanksgiving cooking on my plate literally,
right?
Not so much metaphorically. Well, thank you, Demi. I appreciate that. All right, let's conclude. So, did Mirri Maz Duur plan this all along? I'm thinking she did.
Yeah, it
more and more
feels like it. I've read online discussions where people argue that she didn't plan it, but it certainly to me feels like she did plan this. Yeah, she says Dany knew the price ahead of time, but she didn't control Jorah bringing the baby into the tent. But I mean, you have to think that the price was going to get paid one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, even if Kaholo hadn't shown up and the whole fight hadn't broken out, and Dany went into labor and some midwife, Dothraki midwife, was started the birthing process, things were going to go wrong some way or another.
Yeah. She did seem to try to heal Drogo, at least to me. I'm not a medical man.
Right.
But then the vitriol she just spewed about the Dothraki and her lack of remorse suggests that she was never really trying to help.
No, and when confronted, she gave absolutely no rationale as to why. No attempt to explain how things may have gone wrong. She just I did it because you guys are jerks, basically.
Yeah.
You guys are bullies of the Dothraki Sea, and I don't want to take it anymore.
And her taking care of Dany whilst in her fever was tempered somewhat by what she then said to her when she woke up, which was like
Right.
taking great delight in having ruined your life while you were asleep.
Exactly. It goes back to my whole thing. Like, what was she? Why not just finish her off? She's in a very weakened state. Just like, you could have easily finished her off. But it does feel like she wanted to rub it in Dany's face.
Yeah.
How everything has gone so horribly wrong. And it was Dany's call. Not call like Khal Drogo, but CALL call.
Gotcha.
That all this started in the first place.
Yeah. But what next for Dany? I mean, no Khalasar, 100 basically hungry mouths to feed.
Right. Even better if all 100 had gone and it was just like the group there, you know? Yeah,
you still got our handmaidens, but they're vulnerable to other Dothraki groups. They're in the middle of nowhere.
One thing I wondered about is, I think it's Jaco says, you know, like they all left. Everybody left. We were too few to stop them. The only folks that remained were us that swore, which, you know, to me means swore to protect Dany. And I wonder if Drogo had died before the last Khalasar rode out, if they would have been like, oh, wait. Wait for me. Because that, you know, it sounds like they're saying we swore a vow to protect you to the call, and so we stayed with you.
Yeah.
But if the call died, then, you know, they could have, you know, that vow might have been broken. So it felt to me like they were staying with Dany, not so much because of their love for Dany, but because they took a vow to the cow.
Yeah. So can Dany be the last dragon? Oh, well, I mean, not necessarily the last dragon, but the next dragon.
Right. The current only dragon.
Current only dragon, exactly, yeah. It's going to take something, though, to get her to the Iron Throne now, because she lost the 40,000 Dothraki screamers who would have made that a lot easier.
Yeah, it's a long way from that particular achievement at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, easier to get across on your own.
Right, yeah. Just
you don't need as many boats now. But
right. One should do it.
Yeah. Succeeding when you get there has become a lot more difficult.
Right. But will she turn herself into the Dosh Khaleen? I mean,
I'm guessing no. I'm guessing when she sort of weighs up the pros and cons of all that's gone on here, she'll be like, well, at least I'm not being dragged off to the Dosh Khaleen.
I wonder if her Khas that is, you know, with her right now will insist, like, hey, we're still Dothraki, and the rules state that the Khaleesi has to go to the Dosh Khaleen. So,
but then what's in it for them? I mean,
oh yeah,
because then I guess you're in Vaes Dothrak, and maybe you tout yourself to other
catch on with a new Khalasar, because
Vaes
it seems
Dothrak,
like if you don't, then you end up being the slave, you know, like because it seems like when they take over when they destroy another Khalasar, they take their people as slaves instead of as
that's a good point, actually. That is a good reason for the cast to take her to Vaes Dothrak, I would say, because you fulfill that part. You might even have sort of like, it might even be a sort of passport across the Dothraki Sea, because you might say, whoa, we're taking her to the Dosh Khaleen.
Right. Yeah, you know, like flashing your
badge,
like a police officer.
And then when you get there, you're like, well, no, we're free. Let's see, whilst nobody can fight with us, let's see if anybody's interested in our...
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @GhostHarrenhall. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And
if you could leave us a review, especially one with lots of stars, that
more the better.
Most welcome. We would be very happy
with
that. Okay. Very much thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.